All right, welcome back to Kingdom Cast. This is likely what the final season episode ish together for a while.
Season what? Season Xiamen.
Yeah,
Xiamen,
yeah,
the Xiamen season.
the Xiamen arc.
The Xiamen arc
is
is
finishing. Big news. I'm graduating. I'm not gonna be around here anymore.
He's gonna lose so much weight.
Yeah.
He's gonna get ripped.
Yeah. So
I assume.
gonna
Yeah.
need to start a new training arc. Gonna hit the gym. Speaking of which, that's what I decided the final episode is gonna be. So recently we did a book discussion on Song of Solomon, and I was kind of inspired because I was reading this book. It's called "Never Try to Arouse Erotic Love Until" by Calvin Seerveld. It's a really good book. It's about Song of Solomon. I'm gonna make relations to it with the red pill movement and the kind of like modern machismo type stuff. But before any of that, let's kind of go through some notions, some ideas of what you guys think Song of Solomon is, or what generally the culture or the Christians around think Song of Solomon is about. So maybe Zach, why don't you tell me? Because I think you told me you read Song of Solomon before, and maybe you've heard someone preach about it. What do you get out of the book before the book discussion?
Okay. I'll answer the more sus one. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah. So the first time when I read Song of Solomon's, it was like a okay what it was very different from the tone of what a Christian should sound like.
Okay.
Your twin fonts, your twin breasts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
students.
neck,
Yeah.
like the tower of I forgot.
Tower of David.
Wish I could climb it. I'm like, oh.
Oh yeah. So that's a different one. Yeah.
My own students have not read. A lot of them have not read Song of Solomon.
Yeah, so it was
Right.
like
Yeah.
Yeah. So Song of Solomon is clearly one of those. It's probably the least read out of all the four wisdom.
the least
literature.
referenced also.
Yeah, and probably because we can't really make heads or tails. At least generally, the Christians around can't really make heads or tails around it. Was there anything else, James, besides the lack of understanding the book?
Everyone's just shocked that it's even in the Bible in the first place.
Right.
I mean, like he said himself, like it doesn't sound Christian like, so to
The
speak.
tone is absolutely different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a different genre altogether.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes sense, but it's kind of surprising, I guess, to most people that this is even in the Bible at all. I
Right.
suppose.
Yeah. But if it's only about the tawdry stuff, you have to acknowledge a good chunk of the Bible is pretty tawdry. I mean, you have episodes like Judas' daughter
Yeah.
and whatnot. Right? So the Bible is definitely not shy about those things. But to be fair, they see something like Song of Solomon where it's not just explicit, it's almost kind of...
Yeah, it's not spelled out.
right, but it's definitely implicit, but it's kind of loud, right? It's all over the place.
Mhm.
So they maybe find it difficult to kind of make heads or tails, like, oh, why is this overtly sexual book in terms of connotation and all that is in the Bible? What's the benefit? So let me tackle some of the popular position on what this book is about, and you tell me if you've heard this one. So, Song of Solomon kind of basically serves as a kind of Christian Kama Sutra. This is the one you probably heard, right? So,
Between man and God.
no, that's a different one.
Oh, that's
different
okay,
one.
okay,
It's
okay.
completely different.
Yeah,
That's-
that
that's
one is
different.
sus.
So that one basically is saying, well, Solomon, I guess, is Christ, and the Shulamite lover is the bride of Christ.
Mm.
So it's typological. They take the instantly typological route.
Yeah.
Which again, I think there's flaws, but I think we'll tackle those flaws as we actually talk about what the book is. I'm just again tackling popular notions about the book. What else? So we got the love between God and His people. We got the kind of Christian guide to the marital bed,
Oh
to
yeah.
the intimate marital bed. Was there anything else?
Something about love and sex redeemed.
Right.
I
So it's
suppose.
kind of a guide to redeeming or a glorious vision, I guess, of marital intimacy, which definitely wouldn't disagree with the principle. But yeah, so let's get into the book. So unlike how most people would date it, I actually believe the book Song of Solomon is written after exile. So after exile, so this is after Solomon. What happens is there's a civil war. There's a civil war between Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and the good advisors, they sided with Jeroboam, with the 10 tribes, and then the younger counselors sided with Rehoboam, and they're basically the ones who are a bit more cruel. Right? They're saying, no, your father wasn't harsh enough, make it harsher, tax them more, all these things. And so the author of Song of Solomon is likely not Solomon itself. The book is about Solomon, but the authors are actually criticizing Solomon. And so the two main views that is opposed is majority people think there's mainly two characters. There's Solomon, who is also portrayed as the shepherd lover, but there's also the Shulamite lover, and that's kind of the main two. And it's fully reciprocal love. But as we found through our book discussion, doesn't really make too much sense when we go through. So we propose there's actually three main characters. There's Solomon, who's actually a creep. There's the Shulamite woman, which actually does not love Solomon back. Solomon's actually someone who abducted her, and she actually loves the shepherd lover, which is not Solomon. So let's get into some of that. What were some of the things that make you go, oh, this is weird. This doesn't seem appropriate, even if it's poetic. You read the book, so you were mentioning the part where he talks about
especially when he describes the figure of the woman.
Right. So there's a part where
it seemed way too intrusive.
Right.
To be right. Yeah.
Right. Even
it was downright creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even for intimate courting,
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know. It's like if I do that to anyone in church, I'll probably get disciplined. Yeah. So that's ironic.
We'd all put you under the table.
Yeah. So be careful for the pastors, right? If they want to say, oh yeah, this is appropriate,
referencing Song of Solomon.
Yeah, and they reference Solomon. They say this is good courting. This is the stuff right here. Then you should be allowed to do it.
Yeah.
But I think everyone acknowledge this is not a cultural problem where that was like 3,000 years ago. This is now. No, I think it's not appropriate regardless. So here's a cool one then. Let's help alongside with the audience how to figure out which is Solomon, the creep, speaking, and when is it the Shulamite lover and the shepherd boy speaking. Tell me, what is the most repeated chorus in the entire book, Song of Solomon? You should remember this one.
Damn, I don't.
Yeah.
Do not arouse.
Yeah.
Erotic love
Until. Yeah, the most quoted. Sorry, not the most quoted. The most repeated phrase in all of the song is "Do not arouse." He pleads. He pleads to the daughter of. The Shulamite lover pleads to the daughters of Jerusalem. Do not arouse erotic love. Do not arouse love until it pleases, until its due time. You can find that in 2:7, 3:5, and 8:4, over and over again. So think about it this way: if it's a wisdom literature, you can assume the most repeated chorus is the wisdom. So if we want to determine good guys and bad guys, what do you do?
Who's the one who's violating it?
Right. So bad guys, the bad guy in the story would be violating the wisdom. The good guy in the story would be obeying. Right.
Maintaining.
This is the same with Proverbs. So Proverbs kind of has a similar treatment, right? It's kind of the Christian self-help. But there's a covenantal concept, and that is the wise man and the fool. That is the ultimate primer for wisdom literature. This is what a fool looks like. He's the bad guy. You don't want to be the fool. ever. And when you see a fool, there are steps to deal with him, there are steps to reprimand him, there are steps for him to grow. But in general, it's a good notion to start by saying, you don't want to be a fool. You want to be the wise man in Proverbs. And sure, you can do the whole, well, Jesus is the ultimate wise man, sure. But then you need the application to extend beyond that. So it's Song of Solomon. We need to find out who's the creep, who's the one who's going around arousing erotic love way before its due time. And again, our hypothesis is actually it's Solomon. So, and we can tell. So, for example, I compiled a bunch of quotation where we can distinguish who's talking. So this is what the shepherd boy sounds like. Can somebody read me Song of Solomon, chapter 2, beginning verse 10 to 14. You can start with 10b, actually. Yeah.
Arise, my love. Okay, ESV, yeah?
Yeah.
Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away. For behold, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. And until?
14.
Until 14. Verse 12. The flowers appear on the earth, the time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree ripens its figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth fragrance. Arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away. O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the crannies of the cliff, let me see your face, let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely.
Right. So this is interesting. Remember, he's the good guy. This is the shepherd boy, not Solomon. What makes the shepherd boy, what makes his courting, his sweet words appropriate? Do you think? Think about it as you go through the text. For example, what were his descriptions of her? Maybe I can take a look at the passage as well. Let me open my Song of Solomon.
Oh my dove. That's a very that's a pretty cool.
So actually, here's a pretty cool example, right? You can have terms of endearment and pet names because they actually exchange pet names.
Yeah.
They say things like the Shulamite calls the shepherd lover the fawn, the jackal, the gazelle, hops here, down everywhere, the mountains. Meanwhile, the shepherd boy always calls her things like the garden, the well. But the description matters, right?
Yeah, a description of purity and gentleness. Yeah.
So, it says, the fig tree puts forth her green figs, and the vines with tender grape give a good smell. Arise, my love, my fair one, come away, O my dove, that art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs, let me see thy countenance. So here's one of the other difference. He's not demanding. There's a bit of impatience in the sense of, I want to see you.
Excitement, yeah.
Right? I'm excited. There's a longing. There's a, it is a wanting, but it's not like, come on, where are you at? I need to see. He's like, show me yourself, right?
Yeah.
So, and that would be reciprocated by the Shulamite lover. So, now we take another quote, another opposite example. This is Solomon. So, Solomon, somebody read chapter 4, verse 1 to 7.
4, verse 1 to 7,
Yeah.
is it?
Mm-hmm.
Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove's eyes within thy locks. Thy hair is as a flock of goats that appear from Mount Gilead. Thy teeth are like a flock of sheep that are even shorn, which came up from the washing, whereof every one bare twins, and none is barren among them. Thy lips are like a thread of scarlet, and thy speech is comely. Thy temples are like a piece of a pomegranate within thy locks. Thy neck is like the Tower of David, builded for an armory, whereon there hang 1,000 bucklers, all shields of mighty men. Thy two breasts are like two young roes that are twins, which feed among the lilies. Until the daybreak and the shadows flee away, I will get me to the mountain of myrrh, and to the hill of frankincense. Thou art all fair, my love. There is no spot in thee.
Right. So this is the bad guy. This is the guy who does not obey the injunction to not arouse erotic love before due time. What makes his seduction different?
I'm just gonna say that the KJV makes it sound a little more tame than other
ESV
translations.
is a little bit. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what's
you?
what's the major difference you notice?
He describes what he sees.
All right. So
What he looks at, basically.
Yeah.
right. Now the thing is, the shepherd lover does the same, but I think one thing you can notice is Solomon is way more blunt.
Yeah.
He gauges her like a piece of flesh. Even.
Could it be summarized as a description of the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh? Yeah.
Very much
Yes.
so, because and you notice, right? His assessment of her is almost like just a scan, because he goes hair, temple, eyes, cheeks, lips, all the way until breast,
Breast. Yeah.
and stops at her breast. In other words, yeah, he's like, he looks at her, stops there, like
Do you know the question? Ass or tits?
yeah. Like-
I think we know the answer
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Solomon.
So it is like that, because he scans and is like, oh, I see what I want. That's all I want. And again, and you can notice some of the idioms he tries to use actually feels forced. So the guy who wrote the book, Calvin Seerveld, does a pretty good translation of Song of Solomon, and he mentions how a lot of the idioms are forced, right? Because Solomon was never in Shilamite regions. These are areas he has no idea about, and he connects her body parts to these things. Oh, your teeth like well-shorn sheep coming out of the bath, and it's like, no, I'm pretty sure even 3,000 years ago, girls don't really like to be complimented that way. And the worst part, this is the funniest one, right? I don't think any girl in the last 3,000 years of human history likes to be compared to your military installment. Because he says your neck is like the Tower of David that hangs 2,000 bucklers. It's like if you go up to a girl and it's like,
Your figure is as beautiful as my Lamborghini.
could be, yeah. There's an earlier part in Song of Solomon where he says, you remind me of my chariots in Egypt. It's like my tanks. You're like Fort Knox that has 200 nuclear warheads. Call me fat. Yeah. Right. So, and not only that, that's a pretty self-centered, egoistic compliment, because even though he's admiring her, the admiration is still reflective of him. Oh, look at all my armies, by the way. You look just like them. Look at all my Lamborghinis. You look just like a bunch of them, right?
Bunch of Bugattis.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny. But, and again, I made some hints that this is actually the kind of machismo the Red Pill movement likes to portray, right? It's kind of like,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
look at all my Bugatti.
Bugatti.
Who colors your Bugatti?
Yeah. And the ironic thing is, a lot of the Red Pillars actually like to get wisdom from the Bible.
Yeah.
But they ignore certain things like these ones, where like sheer machismo is not actually what a man is. A man is more than just his armies, machismos, and all these things. Not to mention the fact that Israelite kings are actually not allowed to expand their military willy-nilly. So,
Yeah, right.
but yeah, so we can keep moving on. We got a couple of examples, and then we can just make application from that. So here's another one. This one's the shepherd boy. Solomon chapter 4, verse 8 to 16. So I can read this one. 4, beginning verse 8. So this is the good guy, the shepherd lover. Come with me from Lebanon, my spouse, with me from Lebanon. Look, from the top of Amana, from the top of Shenar, Hermon, from the lion's den, from the mountains of the leopards. Thou hast ravished my heart, my sister, my spouse. Thou hast ravished my heart. With one of thine eyes, with one chain of thy neck. How fair is thy love, my sister, my spouse. How much better is thy love than wine, and the smell of thine ointments than all spices. Thy lips, O my spouse, drop as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under thy tongue, and the smell of thy garments is like the smell of Lebanon. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed. Thy plants are an orchard of pomegranates, with pleasant fruits, camphire with spikenard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, with all trees of frankincense, myrrh, aloes, with all the chief spices, a fountain of gardens, a well of living waters, and streams from Lebanon. Awake, O north wind, and come, thou south, blow upon my garden, that the spices thereof may flow out. Let my beloved come into his garden and eat his pleasant fruits. Again, the good guy. What makes his compliments different? Because this one also has sexual connotations.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Notice, how does he describe her lips? How does he...
Drip with nectar.
Right.
Honeycomb.
It has sweet things.
Yeah.
But again, it's hidden under her tongue. We're told. He's not like, give me that lips. Give me that give me that sweet lips, baby girl. And another really cool description. Another cool thing.
Uh-huh.
His idioms doesn't feel forced. He says, you smell like all the spices of Lebanon. Meanwhile, Solomon's like, your teeth like shaven sheep that just came out of the bath. That's like weird. That's weird.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Well, the other one invokes imagination. Remember all the smells, all the spices in Lebanon?
Mystery, yeah.
You-
And complexity.
Right. And the implication is they both know what it smells like. It's a recalling to a memory. It is a private memory. And his compliment of her is a private one. We know what it smells like. Solomon doesn't. Solomon has to do all these, verbal gymnastics. He doesn't. He doesn't feel the need to do that. Another cool one. His description of her. Check verse 12. Verse 12, verse 13. She is a garden enclosed, a spring well shut. Right? She's not opening her legs to just anyone. She's not like this thing. And the funny thing is, he keeps saying, my spouse, my sister. The assumption is, even if they're not married, they're likely betrothed. They're all probably engaged, or whatever the modern status is.
Because back then the engagement meant much more.
Yeah, betrothal. But the description, even for him, he's like, you're well shut. He acknowledges there's still a distance. They're still not married yet. He doesn't get to just waltz in, pick all the fruits. What does he want? There's another really cool thing. Before he says, let me smell, let me see your face. Now he says, south wind, north wind, blow on my garden so I can smell. He wants to smell her from a distance, right? He doesn't want to go and pluck all the fruits, which I think we'll see one of the stark difference later with another one of Solomon's attempts at seduction. Is there anything else you guys see that might be pretty contrasted with Solomon's approach that was particularly impressive or just struck your mind?
The old north wind, old south wind is the shepherd boy asking to smell of her fragrance from a distance. This one is the shepherd boy.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, so he's patient, right? He's not...
Yeah, he's being respectful. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, he is asking for it to naturally be exposed to him, right? He's not like, let me get in, let me knock down that fence and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, okay. That's another one of the shepherd boy. Here's another one from Solomon. Can someone read chapter 6, 5, and 7? Chapter 6.
Thy teeth are as a flock of sheep which go up from the washing, whereof every
Yeah. He is. So continue.
whereof every one beareth twins, and there is not one barren among them. As a piece of pomegranate are thy temples within thy locks.
Right. That's it. Verse 7.
Verse 7. Cheeks are like halves of a pomegranate behind your veil.
Right. So, here's a cool thing. You were asking if we read the right verse. Why did you think that?
Because verse 5, right there, it said, turn your eyes away from me, for they overwhelm me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some translations cut at different parts.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of difficulty since the translators also don't necessarily agree.
Yeah.
But here's a cool thing. You might notice. Have you read this before? This set of compliments? Your teeth, your temples. You have.
Yeah.
Chapter,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
chapter 2
yeah.
is the exact same.
They're the same.
And this is an insanely deft literary touch by the authors. They're portraying Solomon as like the master pimp, right? The experienced seducer. These compliments are exercised. They're rehearsed.
Pickup lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pick up
they
line.
are
There you go.
repeated. So they've been repeated to his three.
Yep.
How many wives was it? 500?
700.
700. Yeah.
Yeah, he
700.
had 700 wives, 300 concubines.
Yeah.
How many times you bet he has used the same exact line of compliments? Right? These are not genuine. The fact that he has to repeat them and then he gets the order wrong too. That's an insanely good literary touch. If you notice the order, he mixes up. I think the temple and the eyes or the cheeks. I think somewhere there. But again, it's really cool because a lot of the red pillar guys, the way they say pick up ladies is, yeah, you do these things. You have these set of lines that you say at the right time, at the right moments, and that's literally what Solomon is doing. So, again, gauges her. That's all he can see, right? He doesn't have any memory of her. He literally just abducted her. And so, he can only comment on what he sees. And then in the story, what happens is, he compliments her. She doesn't reply. She only hears the shepherd lover. And so he panics, and what does he do? He just repeats the compliment, because he got nothing else to offer. Right? That's the only kind of like seduction line he has.
Out of his game.
He's out of his game. He's getting played by a real lover, the one who actually knows her and has memories of her and loves her for who she is and all those stuff. All those stuff. So yeah, that's really cool. That's a short one. I think there's only a few bit more. Yeah. Here's another Solomonic one. Chapter 7, verse 1 to 8. This is kind of like the climax of the book in terms of the conflict. You want to read it?
I'll go for it, yeah.
Yeah.
How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O noble daughter. Your rounded thighs are like jewels, the work of a master hand. Your navel is a rounded bowl that never lacks mixed wine. Your belly is a heap of wheat, encircled with lilies. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Your eyes are pools in Heshbon, by the gate of Bath-rabbim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon, which looks downward, Damascus. Oh, he got the order wrong.
Yeah. Changes the order again.
Yeah. Your head crowns you like a caramel, and your flowing locks are like purple. The king is held captive in the tree and in the tresses. How beautiful and pleasant you are, O loved one, with all your delights. Am I supposed to keep reading? Yeah. Your stature is like a palm tree, and your breasts are like its clusters. I say I will climb the palm tree and lay hold of its fruit. Oh, may your breasts be like clusters of vine, and the scent of your breath like apples, and your mouth like the best wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So-
intrusive.
Right.
Yeah, it's rough.
So immediately notice the stark difference from going, north wind, south wind,
Yeah.
blow on her, show me your face hidden in the cleft. Solomon's like, your body, what does he say? Your stature is like a palm tree, your breast like the cluster of grapes.
Yeah.
I said, I will go up to the palm tree, I will take hold of the boughs thereof. Now also thy breast shall be as clusters of the vine, and the smell of thy nose like the apples. He wants her, and he shows that he wants her. He dominates her. Right? I will climb up. I'll grab a hold of those pomegranates, those twin gazelles, and I'll let them roll over like grape clusters all over me. Right? Here's just a line from the book I read, because it's just a really good line. This is a speech of a lecher out of control. Telltale signs of pornographic mentality. Dissociates her into body parts. The Shulamite rebukes him in chapter 7, verse 9, saying her lips are only for her lover. That's going over lips that are asleep or gliding past well-worn lips. Right? So she literally mocks Solomon. He's saying, my lips ain't going to touch your well-worn lips, because Solomon's been using them
Or 700.
for 1,000 of them. Others.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Right? And here's the thing. Solomon knows and wants single-mindedly the sexual pleasures of multiple breasts rolling over him. climbing up women like palm trees to pluck their dates, being engulfed by perfumed kisses and the soft flesh of tongue and palate. For Solomon, the blackout ecstasy of physical orgasm is the epitome of love. You, as man, satisfy yourself and conquer the woman. So, it's quite crazy how sadly that
This is
that
red pill.
that mirrors a
Red
lot
pill stuff.
on a lot of the red pill stuff, right? They're like, oh man, we've been victim for long enough. Now you get what you want, right? You show her that you deserve what you get, and you're gonna get it, right? And essentially, what it is the women actually does become a sex object, kind
Yeah.
of like the original accusation of misogyny. Oh, women were being treated as sex objects, and the red pillars are like, oh, since we're being accused of that, we might as well actually treat them like less than human.
How about that?
Right. And so that's, I think, the cautionary tale where when there is an error in culture,
Mhm.
the answer is not just to be like 180 degree.
Mm.
It's like, oh, we're being accused of rapists, let's just rape. That's a crazy conclusion,
Mm.
right? But again, Solomon kind of portrays this kind of error,
Mhm.
right? I got the power, I got the money, I deserve it, so I might as well get it,
Mhm.
right? But as we learn from Song of Solomon, if we're taking in the intimacy, the aspects of intimacy, it's not about deserving. It is some part about reciprocation. People call it consent nowadays, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be just consent, but there is active answering between the two partners,
Mhm.
not just a show of force and dominance from like one party and subjugation from the other party.
Mm.
So here's a cool ending line. I can read this part. This is the shepherd and the Shulamite's critique of Solomon in chapter 8, 5 to 14. So after Solomon goes on that essentially a rape speech, the Shulamite woman and the shepherd lover rebukes him. They say, "Who is this that cometh up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? I raised thee up under the apple tree. There thy mother brought thee forth, and there she brought thee forth that bare thee." So there's the shepherd lover even recollecting her youth, right?
Mhm.
The memory of her mother, her birth, and all that.
Mhm.
"Set me as a seal upon thine heart, as a seal upon thine arm. For love is strong as death. Jealousy is cruel as the grave. The coals thereof are coals of fire, which hath a most vehement flame. Many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it. If a man would give all the substance of his house for love, it would utterly be contemned." That's exactly what Solomon tried to do. Tries to buy love. She just hates him all the more, right? "We have a little sister. She has no breast. What shall we do for our sister? In the day she shall be spoken for. If she be a wall, we will build upon her a palace of silver. If she be a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. I'm a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then was I in his eyes as one that found favor." Solomon, this is the shepherd boy now, criticizing Solomon. "Solomon has a vineyard in Baal Hamon. He let out the vineyard unto keepers. Every one for the fruit thereof was to bring 1,000 pieces of silver. My vineyard, which is mine, is before me. Thou, Solomon, must have 1,000, and those that keep the fruit thereof 200. Thou that dwellest in the gardens, the companions hearken to thy voice. Cause me to hear it. Make haste, my beloved. Be thou like the roe, or to a young hart, upon the mountains of spices." And then they leave the scene. So,
Happily ever after.
yeah, funny scene where they just rebuke Solomon, I think they just jump on the gazelle and leave.
Yeah.
But the rebuke is interesting. So this is another aspect I kind of want to bring up, where the purpose is not just sexual; it's also likely political. Right?
Mm.
There's a wisdom literature; it applies on multiple different aspects.
Mm.
But the shepherd lovers' critique is, "Oh, look at you! You got 1,000 vineyard. You got it in fancy places, and you have tenders, right? People, 200 of them who have to keep the garden, and people pay 1,000 silver for it. And sure, that might be like fancy and all if you're about being rich and owning everything. But by saying I have one vineyard and it's mine alone, I don't share these things, right? That actually skyrockets her value because no one else gets to touch it. That's more valuable than 1,000 pieces of silver for everyone that wants to get it. Meanwhile, Solomon has 700 wives, 300 concubines. Each of them has to be tended with 200 eunuchs. That's likely the commentary, right? If we're following the picturesque in the book where the women are generally vineyards, then the tenders of the vineyards would be all those people taking care of Solomon's harem all the time. And again, it shows the kind of futility of that approach, that seduction. You can sell all your house, offer all your wealth, and nobody accepts it. And that is the fact, right? Solomon, in his political power, tries to seduce the nations, not with God's law, not with proper just rule, but build them houses, build them pagan temples here and there. He enters 120 talents of gold in debt. And what happens? Gets exiled anyway, gets destroyed, gets hated on anyway. So the politics are almost like a love story. Solomon offers everything, his wealth, his house, gets rejected, gets killed. Because that's not how politics and just happen, not how love between a man and a woman works. So it's really cool how, again, wisdom literature applies this way, right? International politics, romance, all these things, it's really masterfully woven together in terms of how it applies. So yeah, that's kind of like the end of this book. I don't know if you guys got anything else. Is there any other observation you guys had from the book?
Yeah, all throughout reading this book now with a bit more experience under my belt, I do actually see the inescapable concept that a lot of storytellers like to portray romance as, two childhood friends growing up together. The woman leaves, gets violated.
Right.
Yeah, comes back, and the young boy, now grown up, speaks to her gently.
Right.
But then the woman is conflicted. That's the thing between her wild life and her peaceful life.
Yeah.
And of course, eventually, chooses to be with her childhood friend. Because it's between the hot guy and the childhood friend. You typically. And I'm pretty sure one of the most famous stories I can think of is Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is a big one.
The woman's kind of like the childhood friend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
run, Forrest, run!
Yeah, boy.
It's super cool how Solomon actually has a pretty timeless romance trope.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what happens to her. She gets abducted, and majority of the book, the shepherd lover's not there. We get his words, his thoughts, and him appearing in a dream. But he's not there yet. He's there when he rescues her at the final scene. But majority of it, she's thinking about him. He's remembering his voice and all those things. And she was violated. She was beaten up by the guards. Right? She wants to escape. She's like, "Where's my lover?" And then the guards like beat her up. Like, go back to the palace.
She tries to escape.
Yeah. Beat her up. Go back to the palace. That's Solomon's supposed to be her lover. Go back, right? And then even the harem is like,
"Oh, how lucky you are!"
Yeah. How lucky! Look at Solomon's like fawning over you. Who's even your lover? Who's the shepherd? Go to the shepherds. You want to see them herd sheep, do that menial labor. And again, super cool. The fact that, what's funny though? What's funny is I think today's generation despises that kind of love. Because nowadays the trope that I see is a kind of romance.
The 666. The 6 feet tall, 6 inches, and 6 feet long guy.
The kind where like she has a really good relationship with the childhood friend, and then a stunning tall guy,
dark and handsome, all this kind of
and
thing.
gives her an adventure of her lifetime.
Yeah.
Puts her in all kinds of danger.
Yeah.
But she don't care because it's adventure and she's alive for the first time in her life. And eventually that's who she goes for. The man who literally puts her life in danger. Not the guy who literally knew her from childhood and
from young.
Yeah. Right. I think that's a cultural shift and tendency to a sinful desire for just like, sheer machismo.
Only place that still keeps that going is Japan, I think.
Yeah, which is why I think,
Yeah, I don't really think that highly of it though.
I mean,
not like
no, I think Japan does this thing, right? Isn't it like a joke where
childhood
friend never gets
Oh.
and again, Sorry?
Was it? No,
I think
I'm starting to
so.
forget my anime. Oh my lord.
Yeah, but it's fine. But I think there was a joke where the childhood friend never gets the girl, and I'm like, that's a appropriate cultural shift. If the people are becoming godless, after all, they hate security. They actually hate people that love them and care for them and are patient with their love. They want adventure. They want this guy who literally shakes their world upside down. Like Solomon. Solomon shows up. How does he show up? His 200 bodyguards, his chariots, his harem. And then he's like, oh, you look just like my chariot. Yeah.
Tell that to your girlfriend.
Yeah. So don't ever.
Don't just don't do that.
Tell your girlfriend
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. Don't ever tell her you look like your Hot Wheels collection. So, but yeah, a lot of precious lessons, just small ones like those, and even bigger ones like how culturally we are straight up just shifting to a more like deviant kind of romance, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. That I'm happy this is my last episode. That's so sad. Hopefully I get to do more in the future, online or whatever. But yeah, is there any other parting words for the final episode?
None from me. I shared mine already.
All right. Anything?
Well, sad to say, I've been away. I've been away and not been able to participate as much as the rest of y'all. But it's called responsibilities. What you gonna do about it?
Just change course, bro. E-commerce kind of chill.
Change course. Oh,
Inside
sure.
joke.
Oh, change course. Oh, that's lovely.
All right.
But I mean, I wish you well, my guy.
Yeah.
We'll definitely still see each other again, but we just don't know when.
Lord willing, I'll be able to visit you over there. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah.
Come back for graduation.
Right. Hopefully by then I would have fully mastered the shepherd lover's technique and have a Shulamite lover of myself. But anyway, yeah, that has been Kingdom Cast. Thanks again. This is Kingdom Cast signing off. Right.